this one feels like a towel and this one feels like a rug. Like, what are these descriptions? I don't know. Hello and welcome to the Faded Wildflower Crochet. My name is Rachel, and this is the third time that I've had to film this intro. I live close to a military base, and they're doing their training exercises today. So if you can hear some explosions in the background, I promise I'm fine. It's just the military base, but I can't film this at any other time, so we're just going to get through this today. Today's video is another episode of Will It Ami, which is a series on my channel where we test out different types of yarn and see if they work for amigurumi. And along the way, you can watch me make a cute plushie, or in today's video, some cute plushies. So if that sounds like fun, then keep watching. For today's video, we are going to be testing out 4 different types of fluffy yarn, or fuzzy yarn, or fur yarn, or whatever you want to call this. If you watched my video where I tested out Premier's Dream Chenille yarn, you will know that that ended up being a nice fluffy yarn, and I ended up really liking it. But the problem is they don't make it anymore. You can't buy it on the Premier website. You can't find it on Amazon. They still do have some left at Dollar Tree if you're lucky. So for today's video, I thought we would see if I can try to find a replacement for that yarn and see if we like any of these fluffy yarns as much. Better, worse, we will see. They are all 4 a little bit different from each other, so we will see which one I end up liking the best. So for today's video, we are going to be making worms, which I know I've already made worms for this channel when I tried out the Walmart yarn, but a fuzzy worm is just so cute. I made this with the Dream Chenille yarn. And so we're going to be making some fluffy worms today. And if you've been keeping up with me, you know that I am doing a market in June. And I think that these are going to be really fun sellers for my booth. So without further ado, let's go get a closer look at the yarn we'll be testing out today. Okay, here are our 4 different types of yarn that we're trying today. Like I said, they're all a little bit different textures, different colors. And as we go through this, I will pop up on the screen how much I paid for each of these and the different color options. Okay, let's start out with this one, which is the Bernat Pipsqueak yarn. Pipsqueak is really hard for me to say, but this one is the only one that I could find in person at my Joann. The rest of these I had to order online, but this was the only one that I could find. I was actually kind of surprised about that, but this one, if you've never felt it before, almost gives like a terry cloth type feel to it. It is 101 yards. Bulky weight, and the color is called baby print, which is interesting. But as you can see, it's just white with some different colors variegated throughout. So that's that one. This one I had to order from the Joann website, and it is the Lion brand Gopher Faux. It is more of a traditional fur yarn. Like if you think of a fur yarn, you're probably going to think of this. It has like a really nice, like almost minky type texture to it, if you know what I mean. And this one's only 65 yards, and it's actually a super bulky weight. And the color is Pink Poodle, which is a really cute name. I guess I was really in a pink mood when I was ordering these yarns. So, and I'm wearing a pink shirt today too. That was not on purpose. This one is the Little Bunny yarn, and this one does not fit in with the color scheme of the other ones. It is definitely much more bright, but I kind of love that. I feel like it's kind of hard to find bright variegated yarns in chenille and fluffy yarns, but this one is really, really bright and nice looking. It is the color Prism. It's 87 yards, and it's a bulky weight as well. And this one does have a similar texture to the Pipsqueak yarn, but slightly different. So there's that one. Okay, here is the last one, which I have no idea how to say this name. I keep wanting to say Kich, but surely that's not right. If somebody knows how to pronounce this, let me know. But I found this one, it's just kind of a random yarn I found on Amazon when I searched fluffy yarn. It is called Quiche or Catch or whatever it's called, fluffy. And it is 98 yards. And it does not have a color name. It just has a little code there. And this is a beautiful shade of pink. Like I said, I think I'm in a pink mood lately, but this is a very beautiful, bright pink. Do you guys ever order yarn online and you love the color, but then you get it in person and it's like just not the color you thought it was? This is like the opposite of that. I did not realize just how beautiful this color was going to be. So this is a very, very fluffy yarn, as you can see, probably to the touch. just in the skein itself, this is the softest. It is so like soft and squishy. So I can't wait to work with this. So I think we're actually going to start with this one today because I think I'm the most excited about it. So let's get started. So before we get started on the crocheting, I wanted to show these foam rollers, which I got at my local Five Below. And it costs $3.25, as you can see, for a 6-pack of these little foam rollers. And they're just a nice little flexible thing that I put into my worms to give them their shape. So let's get started on the crochet. I am so excited. Here is the little head. And so far, my first impressions are that he looks like a Muppet, right? It looks like a little Muppet with the fur all in front of his eyes and stuff. Oh my goodness, it's kind of cute though. But I do like this yarn so far. It is quite easy to work with. I am using a size 4mm crochet hook, which is typically what I use for a bulky weight yarn, and it's working perfectly. It took me just a minute to get my tension right, but once I did, it's quite easy. Like maybe even easier to work with than the Dream Chenille. So that is a great first impression. And I think he looks so silly, but also cute. So I'm going to go finish him up on my couch, and then I'll come back and let you know how I'm feeling once he's done. Okay, our first one is done, and I cannot get over the fact that he looks like a Muppet. Right? Like, look at that face. He looks like a Muppet. Oh my goodness, I cannot get over it. It's so cute and so silly. But this yarn continued to be extremely easy to work with. Now, can you see your stitches with this yarn? No, not really. You do have to kind of look through the fur, and you can you can almost kind of see some stitches, but not really. You do just kind of have to feel your way around, but that is just to be expected with fur yarn. That's kind of just how it goes. But all things considered, it was very easy to work with, very quick to work up with this being a bulky weight yarn. I had no problems with it whatsoever. It sewed up nicely as well. Of course, I only had to sew up the end here, but I was really trying to work it through several stitches. And it shed just a tiny bit, as you can see, like right where it was cut. It shed just a tiny bit, but it's not shedding at all now, like nothing. So I really like this. So this is a great start to our fluffy yarn experiment. I think he's so cute and so silly. I probably could trim up some of this around the face to make it look a little less silly if I wanted to, but I could see this yarn working so well for so many different types of plushies. It was probably the most expensive, if I'm remembering right, the most expensive of the bunch, but it is very nice, very soft, very easy to work with. So let's keep going and work on our next one, but I am quite impressed with this and I can't wait to make some more plushies with it. So next I think we're going to go with our Bernat Pipsqueak yarn. I don't know why the word Pipsqueak is hard for me to say. Pipsqueak. Okay, I got it. Let's hope that this one is as nice as the first one. We'll see. Okay, here's the little head on our Pipsqueak yarn plushie. And it is very easy to work with as well. I can't believe it. I was kind of worried because trying out 4 different kinds of fluffy yarn, I thought, surely this is going to be kind of a difficult day. I was excited about it, but also kind of nervous. But honestly, so far, we are 2 for 2 on them being easy to work with. I'm so surprised. Like I mentioned before, this does have more of a terry cloth, like towel type of texture to it, but it's actually quite nice. I like the way it feels. It is a very different vibe from this one. As you can see, the fluff on this one is much thicker, whereas this one doesn't have as much of the fluff that comes out, if that makes sense. Like you can see the eyes clearly. I don't know how I feel about this variegation. I actually think it looks better on camera than it does in real life, but this is very marketed towards like baby products, baby blankets and that kind of thing. So I do think they picked like very pastel-y baby type colors, which is not bad. I do think this would look really cute for like a teddy bear for a baby's room or something like that. But anyways, I'm going to go finish him up and I will check in again and let you know how I feel about it once he's done. Okay, that's our second one done for the day with the Pipsqueak yarn. And I think he turned out so stinking cute. I had no problems at all with this yarn. There was no shedding, no snagging, nothing like that. It was honestly a dream to work with, you guys. Can you see your stitches? No, you can't, but that is just the nature of fluffy yarn. And I think this was pretty quick to work up, really just as quick as our super, super fluffy guy here. But I don't know if this color is my favorite. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just not that crazy about this color combo, but that's just personal preference. I don't believe this yarn comes in very many colors. If I'm not mistaken, there was really only like 4 or 5 colors to choose from, which is kind of a bummer, but it is quite cute. So I think we're going to go for this one next. And I have a feeling I may need to go up hook size since this is a super bulky. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started on this one. I have such high hopes now that I had 2 successful experiences. So let's hope that we can continue on that train. Okay, guys, this one is definitely my least favorite so far, especially with the way that it looks, but look at this. I think it looks better inside out. If you look at that, how it's like so nice and fluffy, and then this is like the right side. You can kind of see, like, you can see the stitches more. It's kind of a lot less fluffy. Like there's almost like a row of the stitches and then the fluff and a row of the stitches and then the fluff. Can you see that starting to happen? So I think I'm going to turn him inside out. I think that's what I'm going to do because I just like it better that way. And there's no shame in that, right? If we want to flip him inside out, we can, right? There's no rules. So I think I'm going to put the eyes on this side just because it looks so much nicer. But have you guys ran into that with this yarn? It kind of is reminding me of when I worked with the red heart brushed yarn, how it looked better on the wrong side than the right side. That's how this yarn seems to be too. And it also is just a little bit harder to work with, like it's just snagging a little bit more. Also, if you know with fur yarns, there's always kind of like a ribbon part, and that part is much rougher on my hands while crocheting than the other two so far. But yeah, I think I'm going to put the eyes on the wrong side because I just think it looks much cuter. So we're going to do that, and then I will check in with you guys once he's done. But I am a little bit disappointed that I don't like this yarn as much as the other two. Okay, our Lion Brand Go for Faux worm is done. I think he looks more like a caterpillar than a worm, but that's okay. Look at his fluffy face. He's pretty cute. I do have to say, though, I'm pretty disappointed in this yarn. It is so soft and so fluffy. I'm really happy I decided to work it inside out. So basically what I did was just put the eyes on the opposite side, on the wrong side, and then I just kept crocheting all the way down. And then when I was ready, I just flipped him inside out. Then I just put the hair roller inside instead of crocheting it around the hair roller. And honestly, that worked just fine. I did have to make it a little bit thicker just to make sure that it would fit in there. But honestly, that part worked just fine. And he looks adorable. Like you can't even tell that this guy is crocheted when you flip him inside out like that. Like it looks just like a fluffy plushie. Like it looks like I just made this out of some sort of like regular material, which I do kind of like. And I like the look of him a lot, actually. I think he's quite cute. But this yarn was harder to work with. It's all of the things I mentioned before. It is thicker, so you do need to go up a hook size. I am using this 5mm crochet hook, which does work, but I will say if you really feel in there, you can kind of feel that there are a little bit more gaps than I tend to like to have in my plushies. However, it doesn't really matter for this particular one because there's no stuffing in it. This just has the foam rod in it. Now, for these two plushies, what I did was stuff the head just a little bit and then put the hair roller in and then stuff the end just a little bit. And I do that because these rods do have like the little plastic ends and the stuffing just kind of helps where you can't feel those, if that makes sense. But with this one, I just put the rod in there without stuffing it at all, which does mean you can kind of feel the little rod in there, but not really too bad at all, just because this is a thicker, fluffier yarn. But if you were making this with something where you needed to stuff it, you would have to just kind of be careful to get your stitches a little bit tighter, but it was a little bit harder to get the tension right with this one, I think. And I'm not really sure why. I think that's just the nature of this yarn. And as I mentioned, I don't really like the way that the yarn feels on my hand while I'm crocheting it. Like the finished product feels so soft, but while you're working on it, you can sort of feel that, I'm not sure what to call it, but the ribbon part of the yarn against your hand. And that part is kind of uncomfortable. But I will say it is very quick to work up. It is very cute. It is very soft. I also forgot to mention that there was a factory knot, which is quite unfortunate. I hate when there's factory knots in yarn, but I can't even feel, oh, nope, it's right there. You can't even really see it, but you can feel it that there's a knot right there, which is unfortunate. It's just one of those things that happens sometimes. So I will definitely say that this is my least favorite so far. I think this yarn could definitely have a place in my stash. There are things that I could use it for, but it's definitely not going to be my go-to so far out of these yarns. So let's move on to the little bunny yarn, and I'm probably going to go back down to the 4mm crochet hook. So let's get started on this one, our last worm for the day, and I'm really excited about this one. I love these colors, and the Premier yarn comes in so many different shades. So let's cross our fingers that this one is going to be good. I was trying to pull the yarn a little tight and it just snapped right there. So that is quite unfortunate. That is not boding well for this yarn, unfortunately. Okay, here is the little head, and I do think this yarn was quite easy to work with, and then all of a sudden it just snapped. So that was pretty unfortunate. I will have to say though, I don't love the texture. Let's see if I can show you a close-up. It's not quite as nice as the other three that we've tried so far, and I don't like it as much as even the Dream Chenille. It's kind of hard to explain why, but this feels kind of like a rug. I feel like these are like my explanations. This one feels like a towel, and this one feels like a rug. Like, what are these descriptions? I don't know. Anyways, the color reminds me of like a clown wig. That's what it looks like. Like if you need a color for a clown wig, here you go. I've got you. I'm not sure how I feel about it right now. I will continue to finish him, obviously, but I'm just kind of unimpressed with this yarn. I wish I liked it more than I do. Okay, here is our last worm for the day, the Premier Little Bunny yarn. And I don't know, you guys. I think he's cute. No offense to this guy, but I am just not that crazy about this yarn. The texture, like I said, it kind of feels like a shag rug. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if that's the best description ever, but It's just not my favorite. It was easy to work with except for the fact that it snapped that one time. But the other thing that I don't really like about it is the variegation of this yarn. I'm just not crazy about it. I really hoped that this one would be much closer to the Dream Chenille yarn just because it was made by the same company, but it's very different in terms of texture. It's one of those things where I'm just really not sure why I don't love it, but I just don't love it. I don't hate it either, but I just don't love it. Let me go sit in front of my little yarn wall and give you some final thoughts, but first you'll have to vote on which worm is your favorite. Okay, here's all 4 of our little worms. I have to say they are all cute in their own ways, but I feel in the end, kind of similarly to how I felt whenever I did my rainbow squid video, I feel like I haven't found my perfect fluffy yarn yet. I'm still on the hunt for that absolutely perfect yarn that's easy to work with, that has a great texture, and I just don't feel like I found it yet. I do feel in the end that each of these will Ami. So will they Ami? Yes, for sure. They all have their pros and cons. So let's talk about that a little bit. So the pros for this one, this yarn, I still don't know how to pronounce. Kishi, I don't know. You'll have to let me know how you pronounce this yarn. But this one, I do think this was so easy to work with. Love the color. And I feel like this one came in like 20 different colors or 22 different colors, something like that. I do feel like a pro and a con is that this fluff is quite wild. It just kind of goes everywhere. And so it does give it that Muppet-like appearance. So if that's what you're going for, then this is the yarn for you. So will I be repurchasing this yarn? I'm not sure. I do really like it, and I do think that it would have a specific purpose, like I said. It's something that I definitely wouldn't hesitate to buy again, but it is a little bit expensive for how much yarn you get, and so I would have to have a very specific project in mind for this yarn, but I wouldn't count it out. Okay, you guys, I have an emergency update because I made a fluffy chicken with this pink quiche yarn, whatever this yarn is called. And I know everyone is loving making chickens right now. And if you want a yarn to make a fluffy chicken with, this is the perfect yarn. Tell me that's not the perfect yarn to make a fluffy chicken. Okay, that's all. Okay, so the pros and cons of this little worm, our Pipsqueak worm, is that it is quite easy to work with. I think this was probably the easiest yarn to work with of all of them. I had no problems with it snagging. It just crocheted up like a dream. It sewed nicely, so that is a huge pro in my book. Another pro is that I do like the way that the texture looks with the face. It is sort of like a pro and con moment. Like if you're going for this more like crazy wild fluff, then this is the yarn you want to go with. If you want a more subtle texture, then this is the yarn you want to go with. And for me, I do like this look a little bit better. But the con for me is that I just do not like the color. And unfortunately, this yarn just does not come in very many colors. So that is kind of a con for me because I would definitely repurchase this yarn if it came in some different colors. Let's talk pros and cons for the Lion brand Go for Faux worm that we have here. I think the pros are that he is so cute. Like, look at that. And so soft, like velvety, smooth, like silky soft. And I do love that. I do think he kind of looks like a little caterpillar and he's pretty adorable. So really that's the only pro for me with this yarn. The con for me is that there was a factory knot, which is quite disappointing. I feel like the longer I go in my crochet journey, I'm finding that yarns have more and more of these factory knots. I don't know what's up with that, but this one did have a knot in it. It doesn't come with as many yards, which is also kind of disappointing. It doesn't come in as many colors, which is again quite disappointing. And also, I found that I liked the way that the wrong side looked more than the right side, so I had to end up flipping him inside out, which is not a huge deal, but it is kind of a pain. This yarn, I don't think I'll be repurchasing. I do think that it has like a certain purpose. It does have a very distinct look to it. I think this would be adorable for like a fluffy bunny or something like that, but I personally don't think I'll be repurchasing it unless I have a very, very specific project in mind where I want this type of look, but that's just me. And our last one, the Premier Little Bunny yarn. We'll talk pros and cons for him. The pros are that I think the color is quite vibrant and there are a lot of colors to choose from with this yarn. And for the most part, it was pretty easy to work with, but the cons are that it did snap on me. I cannot believe it. It just snapped as I was trying to tighten it. I've never had a Premier yarn snap on me like that. I have had that happen with the Bernat blanket yarn and the Bernat velvet yarn, but never a Premier yarn. So that was pretty disappointing. I was pretty surprised when that happened. Another con is that I just don't like the way the variegation worked up. And again, that can be personal preference, but I'm just not in love with the way that the coloring came out on this guy. And then the other con is that I just don't love the texture of this, and I'm not sure why. I wish I could articulate the reason why I don't like this one as much as the others, but just personally, the texture is not doing it for me. And I do think that that is one of those things with texture. It's a very personal preference, and I am just not that crazy about this. I will definitely use up the rest of this skein, but will I be repurchasing it? Probably not, unless, again, I had a very specific project in mind, but in general, I don't think I'll be repurchasing this yarn. So you'll have to let me know what you thought about today's video, which worm was your favorite, and do you have a favorite fluffy yarn? Please let me know, because I still feel like I'm on the hunt for my perfect fluffy yarn. If you did like today's video, be sure to hit the like button. You can subscribe and stick around. Let me know what other kind of videos you want to see next. You can follow me on Instagram. It's the Faded Wildflower. And again, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.